You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.
It's a very special edition of the Dan Nicholl Show this week, coming to you from the brand new Jonsson Workwear store, which, if you're watching this, you will see is roughly the size of Lesotho. And if you're purely listening, well, there's no cavernous echo, but there is just in the background that dull, muted sound of legions and legions of Giniel de Villiers fans trying to get in through the front door. And that's because Giniel is our special guest, 2009 Dakar winner, one of South Africa's most dedicated athletes, decorated athletes, and now one of our most devoted golfers. Giniel, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure about the devoted golfer, but thank you.
Well, we have in the build-up spent the last 20 minutes not talking about high-speed racing and off-road adventure, but about spending vast amounts of money for a round at Villamoura and what our favourite golf courses are. It almost makes me think, at the risk of incurring the wrath of Giniel de Villiers, that the gentle descent into middle age might just have begun.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. We've got to embrace that, and we've got to make the most of it. And yes, I mean, like you say, I've had the privilege now in the last 10 days to go and play Villamoura and some other beautiful courses in Spain and Portugal. It's one of those things that you want to do. It's a bucket list item, and I must say we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great weather, great golf, big competition between a couple of mates, and the bets were made. Some were lost, some were won, but we all had a lot of fun.
It's a beautiful part of the world to play golf, Spain and Portugal, but we were both sharing the belief that when we look at the very top end of South Africa, Leopard Creek being the place we both know best, that you don't have to go to Portugal and Spain to find what really is the best of golf on the planet.
Absolutely. You know, we were discussing it over there, you know, between our friends over there, you know, which golf course would you, you know, say is your most favorite golf course in terms of golf experience? And then, you know, I thought long and hard about it, and I said, you know, Leopard Creek in South Africa, in terms of golf experience, I don't think you can find anywhere better in terms of that. And you rightly said, you know, you don't need to go there, but unfortunately we have to go there now to realize that. So we've been there, we've done it, and I definitely realize that Leopard Creek is my favorite golf course at the moment in the world.
Of course, there are many others. We look at Durban Country Club or Royal Johannesburg or Pearl Valley. There's so many great opportunities, and you're clearly playing a bit of golf. I'm fascinated about Giniel the golfer, and I remember years ago doing an interview with Ralph Schumacher where he said that at that stage, I think he plays a lot more golf now, but at that stage, he wasn't so keen on golf because the golf carts didn't go fast enough, and it was very annoying. What sort of golfer is Giniel de Villiers? What sort of golf cart driver is Giniel de Villiers?
No, I'm a very average golfer, but I mean, it's such a great game, you know, and it's so good for your. It's good for your head sometimes, but it's also bad for your head sometimes. I mean, you get utterly frustrated when you don't hit the ball well. But then again, I think it's that, you know, we all have those great shots on a golf course once or twice or maybe three times in 18 holes that brings you back. And, you know, it's a wonderful game that with a handicap system, you know, you can play, I can play with a guy like Giniel or, you know, whoever, and we can compete and have a lot of fun, have a lot of laughs after the game, and we can compete on the same level. So I thoroughly enjoy it. You go to a golf course is always a beautiful place to go and walk on. I enjoy nature. I like to be out there, and, you know, we've got so many beautiful golf courses in South Africa that it's a treat to just go and play.
It's also a great place to unwind and largely de-stress. Doesn't always happen if the game's not quite on top. But for somebody who's done what you have done for so long in such a highly pressurized, high-octane environment, driving at ridiculous speeds through ground that in the past, I think you've been over territory that may or may not have had landmines in. I mean, this is the kind of things you've been doing for decades now. How important has it been for the mental well-being of someone who's done what you've done for so long to have that escape, to have a way to get some sort of balance?
I think it's very important, you know, and I'm lucky that you know, obviously because racing is my, you know, it's my main thing. It's what I do, what I've been doing for 36, 37 years now. It's very intense. It's high adrenaline. It's a lot of things are happening at the same time. It's a lot of pressure. It's very important to have things like golf, or I do a lot of mountain biking as well. It's just to de-stress and just get out there, get into nature, just have a laugh. It's a completely different game. It's a completely different to what I do. Okay, mountain biking, you could say, is maybe closer to the racing, because if you don't have a
Sometimes more
single track,
dangerous than racing.
it could be, because you don't have a roll cage around you. But yeah, golf is definitely something it's completely different, and something that I enjoy a lot.
So you've got these two very different parts of your sporting endeavor that speak to who you are. The one that has put you on the map and made you so loved and celebrated is the driving. And we're going back now over 30 years to finding your feet in there. How do you discover that driving cars at high speeds and probably putting the fear of God into your mother is something you're quite good at?
Well, yeah, I can say how. I mean, I started when I was a very young kid. I grew up on a farm. I had a go-kart with four wheelbarrow wheels and a 200cc lawnmower engine in the back, with a Suzuki disc brake.
That
So
sounds very health and safety pro.
exactly. But I mean, that was like 40, 50 years. Well, I'm giving away my age here now, but it's like 45 years ago, closer to that. But that's where my love started, for racing. I just loved to, when I got back home from school, to go into the farm, get my go-kart, and try and beat my time from the previous day around a set track that I put out around there. And yeah, the bug just bit me, and I was fortunate enough when we moved to the big city, that I could continue that love for it. Obviously, my dad played a big role. He knows more about cars than I do, so he was always encouraging me and helping me to live my passion. So yeah, it's just one of those things.
There's an inherent sense of danger to what you do, at least from the outside. It looks quite terrifying, the speed at which you're traveling. How much of that was something you had to learn to understand, to channel, to manage, and not perhaps just overcome the possible fear, but also know when, you know what, Giniel, even you have to rein it in at this point?
Look, it's a funny thing, when you put your crash helmet on. I mean, obviously it's dangerous what we do, but I think it's more dangerous nowadays than to drive on our roads out there. Not everybody there knows what they're doing. Normally in a race car and the environment that you're in, everybody pretty much knows what they're doing. You strapped into a bucket seat with a 5-point harness with a proper roll cage around you. So it is as safe as it can be. But I mean, obviously there's still an element of danger in it. I mean, you're going at high speeds and things like that. But when you put your helmet on, you don't think of it as being dangerous. It's just something that never enters your mind. I think a lot of adrenaline obviously enters your body, and that survival instinct kicks in, and you literally out there just trying to go as quickly as you can and to balance this car on a knife's edge, because that's what racing is about. I mean, the guy that can balance it closer to the limit is, at the end of the day, the guy that goes the quickest. So that's what you think about, and that's what you do. So you don't think of the danger at all.
This appetite for speed could have taken you into all manner of different racing, and you ended up eventually in the Dakar. Do you think you were always headed that way, or was there something along the way that nudged you in that direction?
Not at all. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I'll be doing the Dakar one day. As a kid, I was watching the Dakar, and I thought it would be cool to do it one day. I was astounded by these crazy guys going through the desert and having a difficult time. Sometimes you see them crying, because they're not getting to the finish or things like that. But my career started on track racing. I was a touring car driver for the best part of my career until the late 2000s. And then I was involved with a manufacturer, Nissan at the time, and they decided to stop their touring car racing. and they wanted to concentrate more on the off-road side of their vehicles. And they said to me, listen, if you want to stay on with us, we're going to go into off-road racing now because that's where the new market lies. Are you keen to join us, or will we stop? So I said, well, I mean, I'm always up for a challenge. Let's give it a go. I mean, I'd love to try it. And one thing led to the other, and 3 years later, I did my first Dakar. So it was never planned.
What was that like, lining up for the first one, for an adventure that, compared to the fairly routine nature of a track race, is so full of the unknown?
Yeah, I must. It was a big challenge. I was very nervous of the first race. I didn't know what I'm letting myself in for. I did a couple of off-road races in South Africa back in the day, but it was one dayers. So I knew it was going to be tough. And yeah, all of a sudden I've got to do the Dakar, which is 14. I think back in the day it was 18, 19 days. And I actually didn't know how I was going to get through this. I mean, I thought this is crazy, but let's try, let's give it a go. It was very intimidating at first. Obviously, I had to learn. I had great guys that taught me in the beginning, guys like Ari Vatanen, guys like Colin McRae, which were teammates of mine back when I did my first Dakar. And, with the experience they had, they helped me a lot to learn the rally, to learn the desert, to respect the desert. And one thing led to the other. And I finished my first one, I think, in 5th place. So it wasn't too bad.
It certainly showed that you weren't out of your depth and that it was something you could probably get your head around. Fast forward to 2009 and that breakthrough year that will forever sit in the annals of racing history. When you went into that Dakar, what were the aspirations? Was it one where you thought, you know what, you can actually win this? Or did it maybe take you a little by surprise?
No, 2009 was definitely one that I went into to try and win. In 2007, I had there was a huge disappointment in terms of the racing side. I was leading the rally by 32 minutes with 4 days to go. And I was in very strong position to win the race. And then 4 days before the end at the Elephant Rocks in Mauritania, my engine let go. And I was sitting there in the middle of the desert. I think it's the most disappointed I've ever was in my whole life. You're sitting there in the middle of the desert. You have to wait for the race truck. Took me 4 hours to wait for the race truck. And then the race truck had to tow me out of the stage for another 10 hours, 400 kilometers. I sat behind him. I got back into the bivouac at 3 o'clock in the morning. Utterly disappointed. Next morning, they fixed the engine. I got going again. I finished 11th. But yeah, obviously huge disappointment. And then 2008, we were lining up in Lisbon for the start of the race. Obviously, the race got cancelled in 2008 because of the terrorist fears in North Africa. Another disappointment. And then 2009 came, first time in South America. And it couldn't have worked out better to be able to win it finally in 2009.
What was that feeling like when you pulled up, you stepped out of the car, and the realization hit you? You know what, Giniel de Villiers, you are the Dakar champion.
It's a surreal moment. It's almost it's like you're dreaming. I mean, you cannot believe that you just won the biggest off-road race in the world. And after the disappointments of the 2 years before, that this has actually happened now. It took a while to sink in. After I crossed the finish line, obviously everybody came to the end and congratulated you, and all the press were there and everybody was there. But you still actually don't believe it, and I think it took a day or two to actually sink in that you've won the Dakar Rally. But unbelievable experience, incredible. Feelings, something that it's very difficult to describe, but I'm just happy that I managed to do it. So it was cool.
It takes a certain slice of fortune, as you discovered 2 years previously when fortune hadn't gone your way.
Yeah.
It also takes a monumental team, and that's not something we really see in detail from watching on television. Just how many people there are, not only in the race, but the guys who, for the weeks and months beforehand, are fine-tuning the car, working on the processes, getting you ready for that occasion. And obviously, having the right team, having the right people behind you was a big part of that victory.
100%. I mean, when I won the race in 2009, there was 105 people behind the scenes in our team to make this possible. And you need the input and the help of every single one of them to make it possible. I mean, if you have a mechanic or an engineer or somebody that doesn't do their job, that leave a bolt loose or they don't do what they're supposed to do, that can mean the end of your race. So it's a huge team effort, and people don't, like you said, always realize that. There's a huge team effort behind it, and I've been fortunate that I've been in really, really great teams over the years. I managed. It would have been nice if I could have won it, maybe another once or twice, but I've managed to get 4 second places and 3 third places, so 8 podiums in total. But all with wonderful, great people behind the scenes helping me. And, these are the people that actually deserve more credit than they get, because they are a big part of the success you have in a race like the Dakar.
That success is terrific, and it looks great on the Wikipedia page, and it's a wonderful record to reflect on. But it tells such a small story of what the broader adventure actually has been. And we've had many conversations over the years about some of those highs and lows. When you look back now on this Dakar career, aside from the victory, from the near misses, from the runners up, some of those moments from my favorite one is always being hauled aside by armed gunmen, politely looking for some financial compensation. But you've had some moments like that, which they almost sound made up. And I had to check a couple of them. So, no, Giniel's winding me up here. But you really have had some experiences on this race that really do sound like a piece of fiction.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some crazy stories. I mean, we were talking about it before, and on the border between Morocco and Mauritania, we were literally driving on a set piece of road between some lit up pieces of road through the night, through a landmine infested piece, and they told us before, and please stick to the road, don't cut the corners. As you cut the corners, there might be a landmine. Couple of or 1 or 2 trucks did cut a corner, and the landmine went off and shot the whole back of the truck away. So you go through there.
This doesn't happen on a golf course.
And that doesn't happen on a golf course, and it is quite an uneasy feeling going through there. It's sort of surreal.
It's a lovely way of putting it. It's quite an uneasy feeling as a landmine goes off on the route.
I just made sure that I did quite a good speed or decent speed around it, that the landmine goes off behind me, or not, sort of when I'm on it. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned the one year we were on the border, also again between Morocco and Mauritania, and some corrupt government officials were having AK-47s into the car, one on my side, one on the co-driver's side. You're looking into the barrel of an AK-47, and they're demanding some money before they let us go. And then I had to tell Dirk, my co-driver at the time, I think it's maybe a good idea if you get the petty cash out now, because I don't want to look into this barrel for that much longer.
It sounds like a perfectly reasonable transaction.
Well, we gave them the money, but I didn't feel safe until I was behind the first hill. So yeah, there was lots of stories.
You also had the kind of adventure that very few people will. You certainly went on holiday. It was a travel expedition, but you did get to see parts of the world that often very few human beings ever have seen, let alone regular tourists. Did you get much of a chance, given the kind of speeds you were at, given the nature of what you were doing, to take in some of the surrounds, to get a feel for the desert, to get a feel for unexplored corners of South America or the Saudi desert?
Yeah, look, I mean, definitely the job that I did brought me to parts of the world which you would not normally go to. and some really, really beautiful parts of the world. Obviously, if you do the stage, you can't look at the scenery too much. You got to look at the road ahead and make sure that you miss all the obstacles that are there. But we have some connection sections in the stages, which we do at a normal speed, just to get to the different towns that we overnight in. And in those sections, you definitely have a look, and you look at the beautiful scenery. I mean, South America, we were crossing some mountains at 5,500 meters in the snow, going from 50 degrees at the bottom at sea level up to -10 at 5,500 meters, and then down again and starting a stage. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful, stunning scenery. And then I did some races in China in the Gobi Desert there, which some of the scenery there is some of the most beautiful in the world, where you have lakes in the middle of the dunes. Beautiful, beautiful, huge, huge lakes. So yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate to see many parts of the world and experience that. So that brought me some pleasure as well.
If you could go back to one of them today in a slightly more sedate fashion, no longer chasing a checkered flag, but just taking it all in, what would that destination be?
Well, we had the rally in South America for 11 years, and I absolutely loved South America. Just the people, the culture, the people, they are mad about motorsport. We had the first year we were there, we had more than 5 million people follow the race in physical numbers, which is absolutely crazy. But I think I'd like to go back to South America and just at a more sedate pace, explore, everything that South America has to offer. It's a beautiful country, great food. But yeah, I think that would be my bucket list one.
And that might happen sooner than later, because there was a sense of finality to the Dakar earlier this year. It didn't go the way you would have liked, but for someone who has had a very boring Christmas for as long as one can remember, who hasn't been able to let his hair down, or what's left of it, over New Year, it's always been built up to Dakar. Did the sense that maybe the Dakar journey has come to an end be correct? Would it be that Dakar journey is now done?
Well, I don't want to say finally, because I'm a believer in never say never. But for sure, my career is at the end of its end of its sort of life. I've done the Dakar now for 22 years in a row. I haven't spent sometimes a Christmas, or definitely not a New Year, with my family for the last 22 years. I'm not going to do the Dakar this coming one. So it would actually be quite nice to have a proper December family holiday for a change. I think it'll be refreshing. And then who knows? Let's see. There's we're still talking about future possibilities. I'm still in good health. I still feel good. But let's see what the future holds. So maybe there's something on the horizon. But if not, that's also okay.
I'd love to see January Giniel, a bit sunburnt, hint of a beer belly coming along, just had a really lazy, laid-back Christmas. I think your family would love it as well.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, it's the festive season is when all your mates are letting their hair down, and then you've got to, always be the one there sipping on your bottle of water, and because you've got to go and, do a training session the next morning for 4 or 5 hours. So I think it'll be a welcome change.
And I hope it does come, but I know you well enough to know that you're not just going to resign yourself to a life on the couch and around the braai, because
Sure.
despite the calm demeanor, there's still a lot of drive and ambition. I do have a possible work opportunity for you. A mate of mine runs a small business where we're looking for drivers who can leave banks at high speed with sirens in the background, and I think you'd be brilliant at that. But there is some driving to be done, because you are part of a new private team now.
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate that I'm part of Team Hilux Rally Raid at the moment. They've approached me and asked if I still want to drive. I said definitely yes. You know, if you've been part of an adrenaline rush for so many years, it's very difficult to just switch off like that, all of a sudden. So I'm still taking part in the South African Rally Raid Championship over here, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I mean, it's not so intense. There's a little bit less pressure. It's not for a factory team, but it's a proper private team at the moment. We just won the fourth round in the Langkloof Valley on the weekend. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and hopefully I'll be doing that for another year or two. So we'll see.
And there's clearly still a love for what you do, and that is so important, and you are enjoying it. But what else, now that the pressure of the Dakar, certainly for this year,
Yeah.
is off, are there other elements in the life of Giniel where you've always dreamt of learning to speak Italian or become a pastry chef or master the art of chess? Are there other things that now you might finally have the time to be able to look at doing?
Well, for sure, I'll have a bit more time now. Yeah, there's nothing in particular. I like to explore all avenues. It's I've always been like that. So we'll see what comes up. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there nowadays, and especially in the country that we live in, South Africa. I believe there's so many opportunities. We live in a beautiful part of the world. It's also something you realize when you need to travel to a lot of different places to realize that we've got one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the future holds, and always open for something new.
There are still many adventures to come of that, I have no doubt. But I will ask you to leave us with two from time gone by. And as you look back on this career, headlined by Dakar, but certainly not confined to just that, what over the Giniel de Villiers career was the very low point? What was the one where even someone I know, to be a pretty confident person full of self-belief, you had that belief shaken? And what was the one, and I suspect it might be '09, but maybe it wasn't, that really you look back today on and still get such a warm, goosebumpy feeling about because of what it meant to you personally?
Mm. Well, I mean, I'll have to say the low point, and I mentioned it earlier, was definitely in 2007 when I was leading the Dakar Rally by, 32 minutes, and we couldn't close the deal. I mean, it is because it was building up in 2006. I was second. I was second by, I think, 17 minutes from Nicholl. And in 2007, I was so motivated to do it then. And then, 4 days from then, something out of my control let me down. And it was utter disappointment. I think it took me about 6 months to get over that. But then the high point is definitely, in my whole motorsport career, is winning the race in 2009. There was nothing better than that. There was no better feeling than that. I haven't had that feeling ever since. And yeah, I mean, that is something that I, still, when I look at pictures of that day, it definitely gives me goosebumps.
I love the fact that your eyes are burning bright as you say this, and it still, 16 years on, put such a broad, childlike smile on your face. That's so, so special. We are chatting in the new Jonsson Workwear store in Durbanville. It took me last week from here to Stellenbosch, where you live, about 40 minutes. I'm gathering take you about 6 minutes to get home or thereabouts.
Well, I don't know what the traffic looks like now, so that's the limiting factor, but we'll see. I'm a safe driver, so I'm not a road rager or a reckless driver on the road, so we'll take it easy back.
We'll have a gentle stroll back and enjoy the time on the golf course to come, because I think we've got a golf date on the horizon later this year, which I'm looking forward to. And thank you, not just for sharing the story, which I've been lucky enough to hear parts of many times over the years, but also giving us such a great South African fairy tale to believe in and cheer on and celebrate. I think when you achieve success as you have in other parts of the world, you don't always realize just how much of an impact it's having back home. And you've had one hell of an impact back in South Africa. And for that, we are a very, very grateful nation.
Well, no, thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's been a hell of a career. I've been fortunate to have been surrounded with some really, really great people, which have enabled me to do this. So yeah, really grateful for that, and looking forward to our next golf game. Thank you very much.
So there we go. One of South Africa's top amateur golfers, and a man who is absolutely never doing the Dakar again unless he does watch this space. My special guest on an equally special edition of the Dan Nicholl Show from the brand new Jonsson Workwear store in Durbanville. A Dakar winner, a great of motor racing, and a real South African treasure, Giniel de Villiers.
You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.